Hello everybody, thank you for being here tonight. We are on our week number 4 of our In.Form transformation journey. It's kind of hard to believe that we are almost a third of the way through the whole program, but I will tell you that tonight, of course, we're going to add on the last week, and we're going to really get into some very, very important information that you need to understand and be aware of as you continue to work on transforming your health to a new, healthier you and being able to take it beyond. But before we get into all of that, I do want to say there's a couple things in the video that we just watched that I don't agree with, and so I just want to make sure I say that first. As far as the amount of grams of protein that a person needs, those people that they showed on that video, I can guarantee you they don't do just 46 and 56 grams of protein. Guaranteed. So anyway, I just want to make sure that you didn't take that to heart, but we will talk a little bit tonight about how much protein you really should be having. So before we get into all of that, of course, last week we talked about toxicity in the environment, in your foods, in your personal care items, in your cleaning items. Did anybody get a chance to make any changes or start addressing any toxicity in their environment that they could get rid of? Susie?
We used to use a body wash that my daughter looked at the label, so she went and got something. I don't know, she got it over here.
Yeah.
That it didn't have all that stuff in it.
So change the body wash. Good job. Wonderful. Anything else? Anybody did? Maybe? Sarah? Not yet? Thinking about it, right? As one of our participants said last night, she's like, I'm more aware and I know I need to work on it. I'm like, okay, well that's good enough. As long as we've increased your awareness and you know it's something that you got to put on the list of to-dos, then that's wonderful. But that's good that we're more aware of all of those things. We also did some measurements this week, and I forgot my measurement piece of paper. Asher, there's a measurement piece of paper around the corner over there with just names and measurements. It's just a blank piece of paper. Would you grab that for me? So we got a few measurements. We got a bunch more measurements to do next week because some of our informers didn't really get measured till week 2. So we're waiting to measure them till week 5 because of that. So we're going to have more complete numbers for everybody next week. But for what we've got right now, thank you, Asher. Of the 4 people that we could really work with measurements on this 4-week time period, we have lost a total, between 4 people, we've lost a total of, let me do my calculations real quick, so that would be half, so it'd be 3/4, so it'd be 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.5 inches between 4 people. So we've had some like really good progress, already, and one of the things I was thinking about this, I was like, why do I see so much in the first 4 weeks? And then it kind of hit me. It's like, oh, it's water retention. A lot of it's just water retention too. Because when you start on this program, you start drinking more water, which helps with water retention. You start eating healthier, and you start getting away from the carbohydrates that sometimes can also add to water retention as well. I think that's one of the reasons why we see such good progress with people in the first 4 weeks of the program, is because they're just making just enough changes where their body starts to regulate itself a little bit better. So good job for those people who've already lost some inches in our first 4 weeks. All right. What about greens? Did anybody get a chance to get any more greens in? Maybe either smoothies or salads or, yes? Good? Yay! Good. I know sometimes it feels a little tough choking those greens down in the beginning, but I promise you it gets easier. As that good, healthy gut microbiome starts to get in charge, it's going to demand you feed it greens. And so, just be prepared on your green purchasing, right? I like to start off with a little quote that I think is really appropriate for this point in time of our In.Form transformation journey. And it's the secret of change is to focus all of your energy not on fighting the old, but on building the new. And I think that's really important at this stage because we're realizing that there's some habits that we're ready to get rid of or we're needing to get rid of. And sometimes we just kind of get in this cycle in our head, oh, but I can't have it, I can't have it, I can't have it. It's all about I can't have, I can't have, I can't have. Opposed to I can have, and really focusing on what you can have that's going to serve your purpose as you get to this point. But the secret of change is to focus all of your energy on not fighting the bad, but on building the new, because that's exactly what we're doing at this point in time. So I want to make sure I remind everybody to please fill out your weekly In.Form checklist if you haven't done so already. And please be as specific as you can. As I was sharing with the group last night, this really helps me help you. The BioTracker numbers that help me help you, but this really helps me help you. If I see your protein levels or your muscle mass not gaining as it should, or body fat not reducing as it should, or hydration not increasing as it should, this is my go-to sheet to help you. So I know some of it seems a little personal, but the more information you can give me on these sheets, the more I can help you and assist you through this process and make sure that things are running the way they should be and as smoothly as they can be, considering you are going through this transformation journey. All right, so of course we're talking about protein tonight, the importance of protein. So I wanted to start off with this little, board. Where's my words? Hopefully I can remember words for the rest of the class tonight. But anyways, food is information. Now we're not talking about avocados or donuts tonight, but just the idea, food is information. Protein is information to your body. When you input protein, it gives you information. And that kind of information, as you're going to learn tonight, literally affects every single process in your body, every single cell. In fact, your DNA blueprint is made of proteins. And when you think of it that way, then it kind of makes more sense to realize that that protein really is going to tell your body what it needs to do based on the information and the quality of that protein that we're putting in. So I like to make sure I point that out at this particular time. The other thing I want to point out as well, that one right there. Remember our 3 R's? We're going to reset, which is remove. We talked about that last week, removing that bad toxicity, not only out of our gut, but out of our environment. But tonight we're going to talk about repair. Tonight is all about protein, and protein is a builder and a maintainer, and it helps us grow as we're children. I mean, protein is essential for all those body processes. And we also need it for repairing. So tonight's focus, as we talk about our 3 R's throughout this program, we're going to be really focusing on the repair portion of this whole program. Of course, we're going to provide nutritional support for the healing and regeneration of the gut. We're going to be supplying the body with vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, essential fatty acids, L-glutamine, which of course you're going to learn more about why that's so important tonight, and of course plants. So that's what we're going to be focusing on tonight when it comes to our 3 R's. I'm going to go ahead and go to our manuals now. So we're going to go to page number 32 in your In.Form participant manual. And here we go, Sarah. I'll get you one. Do you need more note paper? You got enough? You got what you need? Okay. All right. Good deal. So page number 32. We're going to start off with a basically misleading information BMI, aka also known as your body mass index. Has anybody ever been to the doctor and been told based on their BMI that they were not in the correct weight category that they should be? Tom, yes? Yeah. Exactly. I want for us to literally make sure that this BMI is not something that's on our mind going throughout this program, because literally it's based on only a couple of specific factors and not you as an individual. So like for instance, when you go to the doctor, they find out what gender you are, they measure your height, and they use those 2 comparisons only to determine where your weight range should be at. It doesn't account for your body type, for how much muscle mass you carry, if you're bigger bone, thicker bone, any of those factors. It's just based on your gender and your height alone. And we're all different. We're all built different. We all carry our weight different. Have you ever met anybody that they told you how much they weighed? You're like, you weigh that much? Really? Where do you put it all? I mean, people carry their weight differently. I was a perfect example of this. Back in the day when I was doing my excessive weight training, 2 hours a day, 5 days a week in the gym, weight training like a maniac, preparing for a special sport that I was involved in at that time. And if I would have went to the doctor, they would have told me I was overweight. But my waist was like this. It was tiny. It's just everything else was just big. But So we need to really be careful with comparing ourselves to this BMI. The World Health Organization classification is not a part of what we're doing here. We want to take each person individual by individual. It lumps all body mass together rather than singling out the most dangerous abdominal fat, which we're doing with a BioTracker, tracing your visceral fat each week. This is why IN.Form focuses on a healthy body composition rather than BMI or pounds lost. Again, we're not focusing on the weight lost. We're focusing on your body composition, your muscle mass, your hydration, your body fat percentage, your visceral fat, and of course your metabolic age. So protein, it's what's for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. How many meal proteins are we supposed to eat a day? Anybody tell me? How many meal proteins are we supposed to have per day? 3.
Good job back then.
How many snack proteins are we supposed to have a day? 2. All right, Tom's got it. We need to be eating protein all throughout the day, and I'm going to explain even more why this is so important. But the thing is that protein is a building block for our whole body. And we're going to get into this just real quickly so you can understand my language as we continue. Protein is a long chain. Imagine a chain link of a bunch of little chains, okay? And all these little chains are called amino acids. Amino acids are a breakdown of that protein structure. So we have this long protein structure, and then we have these little chains of all these different types of amino acids. Now there are 22 amino acids per se, okay? And there's also amino acids that are essential versus non-essential. Non-essential proteins, or amino acids rather, are ones that your body makes. Essential, however, are the ones that we need to eat. We need to input those proteins, and they're essential for our body to be healthy and strong. So when I talk about protein, and then I switch over to amino acids, I want you to remember I'm talking about those little links that all make up that protein, okay? So following along in our manual, did you know the body needs amino acids, aka protein, within 20 minutes to 1 hour of waking? This is extremely important. One of the things our body is doing while we are sleeping at night is building and repairing and recovering from any kind of cut, scrape, bruise, illness, anything that may have happened. Our body is utilizing protein at a large rate while we sleep at night. This is one of the reasons why children seem to grow so much at night. I don't know if you guys have ever been around any children, and they get up in the morning, you're like, wow, it looks like you just grew overnight. Literally, they do, because that's when their bodies are building and growing. So our body's using massive amounts of protein at night for all of these different functions. So when we wake up in the morning, not only are we dehydrated, because we haven't been drinking water all night, but we also are protein deficient first thing in the morning. So we need to get that protein in immediately upon waking up. Not only does it help us get those materials in so your body can continue the processes it does throughout the day, such as memory, such as focus, such as energy, such as balancing your blood sugar levels. All of these things and more is what protein does for us. So if you get up in the morning and you get your protein in, you're putting yourself off on a really good start. I see this a lot with children who have ADD and ADHD. One of the first things I do when I work with a child who's been diagnosed or is, a potential that they have ADD or ADHD, I ask them what they eat for breakfast. And they're eating Pop-Tarts, they're eating cereal, they're eating waffles, they're eating some kind of a carbohydrate that doesn't give them the proper fuel they need for their brain. And so then they get to school and they're just bouncing all over the place because of the sugars. And then they drop, and then they're unfocused because the protein is not there to help them. We're the same way as adults. We need that protein in the morning to get us going throughout the day. The other thing that's so important for us maturing adults, why we need protein in the morning, is because as children, especially during puberty, we got all these hormones going on, and our body naturally makes those hormones really easily when we're children. But when we actually get into adulthood, especially after our 30s, then what happens is our body does not make as many hormones on its own, and it needs protein to do that. Proteins will help us make hormones throughout the day to balance our cycles as females, to balance our serotonin or melatonin for the day, to balance neurotransmitters, dopamine in the brain, all of these things. So we need that larger amount of protein first thing in the morning so it can break off into its chains of amino acids and literally produce hormones so our bodies can run healthier. Okay? And that's very, very important as we continue to mature. There's actually been studies done where they had a lady who was 60 years of age. She only did 20 grams of protein in the morning, and that wasn't enough. But when she went to 30 and 35 grams of protein in the morning, then her body was kicking in and making these hormones that she needed for that stage of life of where she was at. So literally, we need to focus on getting in that protein because we're not getting in the hormones like we did as children. We need to kind of have that jump start with those proteins in the morning. So very important. I would say if there's only a couple of things you're going to do on this program, I'm not going to do anything else sharp. I'll do 2 things you asked me to do. One of those is get your protein in within an hour. I guarantee if you get consistent in getting that protein in within an hour, that you will see magnificent differences going through the program and for the rest of your life. And you can't eat your protein all at dinner time. Okay? We're shooting for 100 grams of protein per person in this program, give or take a little bit. We need 100 grams of protein. It doesn't have to be all meat proteins. In fact, we really should be focusing on plant proteins also. But we're shooting for 100 grams. But if you eat 65% of all of your proteins at night, you have just basically shortchanged your whole body the whole day of its energy, of its focus, of balancing its blood sugars, and of doing any muscle repair or recovery it may need. So we need to have a balanced effect throughout the day of getting protein in. And in fact, if there was a perfect ratio, this would be it. 30 grams of protein for breakfast, 7 grams for snack. 30 grams of protein for lunch, 7 grams for snack. And about 30 grams again then for dinner. This is the perfect way to balance your protein throughout the day to make sure your energy levels stay high, make sure you feel satisfied and full, you don't have blood sugar drops, and to help you focus and have more energy. This will help that out immensely. Protein has the greatest impact at breakfast due to overnight fasting, is what it states in your book. So, I don't know if it's the American Heart Association or which association it is, but they say what we need is 0.36 grams of protein per pound of body weight for somebody who's sedentary. This is actually low because if you're pregnant, you're on a weight training program, or you're trying to balance your weight out, you need more than that. You need more than that. As a weight trainer, I was doing 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight to gain that muscle mass. And you had to get it in to get that muscle mass to increase as I was trying to do back in the day. What do you recommend to your clients, Shiree?
Usually it's a minimum of half of their body weight, 0.5 body weight, similar to how you figure out water. Usually
Yeah.
that's the minimum. And I think as you get older, it's even more important. I think we'll talk about it later because we start losing muscle mass.
Yes, which we'll talk about here in a couple pages. One thing I'm shooting for with your BioTracker numbers is I'm looking for your muscle mass to be at least 65% of your total body weight. So if you weigh 200 pounds, you want 130 of those 200 pounds to be muscle mass on the BioTracker. That's what we're shooting for. Now, of course, if you're a weight trainer, you're going to want to do more than that, but the average person needs about a 65% of muscle mass in ratio to their total body weight. This may also go up a little bit more for males. It may even come down a little bit for females. And you got to consider your frame as well.
Is muscle mass just muscles, or is it muscle and bone?
Muscle only.
Muscle.
Muscle only, yeah, not bone. So the BioTracker tells us your bone mass number, and it tells us your muscle mass number. So that separates that out for us.
Lean mass includes both, doesn't it? And muscle mass is different.
Right.
That might
Lean
be
mass
what he's
versus
thinking of.
muscle mass. Yes, exactly. But the BioTracker, with the way that it works with the electromagnetic pulse that it puts out, is able to differentiate out the difference between bone and muscle. And so that's why we're able to get those two different numbers on that.
That's 'cause the density is different.
All right, so something that I kind of forgot a little bit earlier. I also want to point out one of the reasons we want more muscle mass is because muscle mass is smaller than fat. This right here is an example of 5 pounds of fat versus 5 pounds of muscle. This is a 5-pound steak in comparison to what 5 pounds of actual body fat would be. This is just 1 pound of fat right here. This is a replica of 1 pound alone. So you imagine 5 of those versus this right here. Now, who would rather have the 5 pounds of fat? Nobody? Nobody.
Where it's at for some people.
This is one of the reasons why on this program, as we focus on protein, proper proteins at the right time of the day, why you may not lose weight on the scale, but you lose inches. Because muscle mass is smaller than fat. The other thing that muscle mass allows us to do is it allows us to burn more calories. The more muscle mass you have, the more calories you get to eat. Hopefully you're making proper choices with those calories, but you literally get to eat more because fat doesn't burn calories like muscle mass does. So the more we focus on getting those muscle mass numbers up and in that proper ratio of a 65%, then the leaner and the healthier we're going to be long term. So we need to talk about how we can make that happen. Page number 33. As I said, protein is a blueprint of your DNAs. Or DNA is a blueprint of proteins, excuse me. I said that backwards. The many pros of protein. Protein is a major functional and structural component of every single cell in your body. After 30, adults need to increase their protein to support structural tissue for repair when in recovery from illness and surgery. Remember I talked about how all these different little chains are different amino acids? All these different amino acids have a special job. And they affect every single cell in your body. Like for instance, L-glutamine. Your amino acids will always start with an L and a dash. L-glutamine is one of those 22 amino acids. And L-glutamine is known to actually repair our gut structure in this wonderful little diagram Shiree did for us the other night. This is the junctures of your small intestine. They're all like little blocks that fit really nicely and tightly together. But when we have leaky gut or colitis or Crohn's or any upper digestional issues, these little blocks, junctures, actually separate. And then what happens is food particles and undigested proteins and all sorts of things then seep into our bloodstream that shouldn't be there. L-glutamine is an amino acid that brings these junctures together and makes them tight again. So we want to make sure we're getting enough L-glutamine in our protein intake to help us keep that gut lining healthy and strong. And that's where that repair comes in at, repairing the gut with L-glutamine. So L-glutamine is good for gut disorders of all sorts of types. Another one is L-arginine. We'll talk about L-arginine a little bit next week, but L-arginine is for the heart muscle. So there again, an amino acid, a breakdown of protein that's good for the heart. L-theanine, wonderful for the brain. It helps us think. It helps us focus. It helps us with our memory. There's all sorts of different amino acids, all of them with specific little jobs throughout your whole body. But this is one of the reasons why we need to focus on getting varied forms of protein. If you always eat chicken breast, turkey breast, chicken breast, turkey breast, chicken breast, turkey breast, you're only getting a certain sequence of amino acids. But when you vary your proteins, you get the salmon in, you get the pea protein in, you get broccoli in, asparagus, some other things, eggs, that all have different chains, profiles of amino acids in their protein. This is going to help supply your body with all those necessary amino acids for your body to be strong in every cell of your body. Protein assists with neurotransmitters, which is your thinking, and your nerve impulses, hormones, hemoglobin, iron. Proteins even help with that, as well as muscle recovery and more. In a study of women aged 50 to 79 years, there was a significant reduction of risk of stroke in women who consumed 20% more protein in their daily diets, and it even lowered their blood pressure. Protein-rich diets have been shown to improve the prevention of type 2 diabetes, osteoporosis, muscle loss, heart disease, and of course I've added on children with ADD and ADHD, memory, focus, hormonal issues, the list goes on and on. Protein helps us with every function in our body. Page number 34. So let's talk about the calories. Now, of course, we're not focusing on calories in this program, but we do want to be aware that there is a different calorie density in different proteins. 1 cup of cottage cheese, for instance, has 163 calories, but 28 grams of protein. Where if you were to try and get 28 grams of protein from nuts, you would intake 800 calories. That's why on this program, we don't use nuts and seeds as our main protein. It's our snack. We want that varied amount of amino acids, but we don't want the 800 calorie load for it. So we do need to make sure we're choosing our proteins wisely. Of course, we're not counting calories, but we do need to find important ways of getting low calorie sources of protein in. Of course, our In.Form metabolic age support shakes do this. Tuna, tilapia, salmon, turkey breast, chicken breast, cottage cheese, tofu, as long as it's organic, please. Tempeh, eggs. All of these proteins are really good for us to be doing on this program as we keep our calories in check, but we get our varied amounts of amino acids. Spirulina is something else I like to pull up at this time. I have had a couple vegetarians complete this program with me. And spirulina is a sea algae that you can also take that literally has the same profile of protein in it that steak does. So spirulina is excellent for those people who are trying to get most of their proteins from plant sources or legume sources, and they're trying to make sure they get a varied amount of amino acids. So spirulina is something I always make sure I mention too. If you feel like you're not getting enough protein or you want to increase your amino acid profile, spirulina is a really good way. Put it in your shakes. Huh?
You can't use it.
You can't use it
No.
because of...
It causes my breasts to start leaking.
Really?
Milk.
Well, what's in spirulina?
Wow, yeah. Well, it's amino acids. It's a plant algae is what it is. It actually grows in the sea, and it's an actual algae, and it's really super dark green.
Yeah,
I put it in my
already
shakes.
tried it before.
Yeah.
Just can't do it.
Have you tried it mixing it, or just taking it as single capsules, or how have you inputted
We
it?
were taking it as liquids,
And how many were you taking a day?
just trying to increase our protein.
Yeah.
I just do one in one of my shakes. I do 2 shakes a day usually, and I put it in one of them.
Yeah.
I haven't noticed me personally, I haven't noticed any
Yeah, that's
changes with
interesting.
that.
Did she have a similar effect, or you said your daughter, right?
Yeah, I don't remember what hers was, but. it
I would
wasn't
love that
really good.
feedback, Susie. I've never heard of that, but I mean, it makes sense because spirulina is really good for your thyroid, and your thyroid has something to do with lactating
Only-
as
Some
well.
have parrots use it to feed their parrots that they're
Yeah.
lactating.
Wow, interesting. Well, I knew that it helps your thyroid, but and the thyroid's connected to all that. But wow, that's
My thyroid's
interesting.
low, so maybe it's not enough for me.
Maybe it's just not enough.
Kind of more, just.
All right. So keep in mind, not all calories are the same. The other thing to bring up is protein actually uses more calories to break it down and process it to get it to where it needs to go. So when you eat protein, literally you're burning more calories by eating protein than you would if it was carbohydrates. Has anybody here heard of food combining? So food combining is when you combine certain foods at certain times because of their digestional time lapse. And so like for instance, a banana can fully digest in 20 minutes from the average individual. Fruits are pretty quick. Vegetables, carbohydrates can take anywhere from an hour to 2 hours, depending on that particular individual. But proteins can take anywhere from 8 to 12 hours to literally break down. So when you think about that, your body is spending this extra time breaking these proteins down, which translates into you burning more calories. So not only does having more lean mass make you smaller and more fit, but it's also going to help you burn those more calories. And that's one of the reasons why you can eat more calories when you have more lean mass. A couple suggestions I have for people too is if you're going to go out to eat, and especially if you're concerned about making the proper choices, is to have a protein shake before you go out to eat. Do this before you go to the grocery store as well. Because by doing that, that protein will literally help you focus and have more stamina to make the proper choices that you need to make for yourself. So use your proteins wisely. Have them before you go out to eat. Have them before you go to the grocery store. Have them before you go to a social setting that you're really concerned about, because you know there's going to be a lot of things there that you may indulge in, and protein will help give you the willpower to stay away from them or to eat moderately, depending on what your flex day is like that day. And of course I said vary your proteins for the range of essential amino acids. So, page number 35. I think before I go here, I want to do, what did I do? No, we'll hit that in a moment. Muscle tissue, use it or lose it. Did you know that the musculoskeletal system makes up about 42% of all of your body weight? That is until you begin to lose mass as you age. Sarcopenia is a dis-ease that starts to set in around age 45. Sarcopenia actually is the result of low exercise and low protein. We naturally lose protein, as Shiree was saying earlier. We naturally lose muscle mass as we continue to mature. By age 60, you will have lost upwards of 15% of bone mass and another 15% of muscle mass. This means that if you weighed 150 pounds at age 30, and at age 60 you still weigh 160 pounds, you've actually replaced 20 pounds of bone and muscle with fat. Remember I was talking about the sweet spot where your body likes a special kind of weight, likes to kind of be in that zone. You know, may have like a 5 pound or 10 pound give or take, but it likes that zone. It'll do that, whether it's muscle or whether it's fat. So if we want to make sure sarcopenia is nothing that we got to deal with, let alone pronounce, we need to make sure we get inadequate amounts of protein and we get our exercise in. It's important to work on increasing your lean muscle mass throughout your whole lifetime. And you don't have to go in and do a bunch of weight training. You don't have to spend 2 hours in the gym like I did. Any type of movement and any type of resistance training that's going to challenge the muscles is what's going to work. The other reason we need this is because as we continue to mature, we have a lot of women who get hip fractures. Why do they get hip fractures? Because they're not getting the protein in, they're not exercising, and they don't have that muscle mass to help support their joints also. So getting the protein in and exercising is very important as we move through this program. I also like to point out, and Shiree may have some different ideas about this, please speak up if you do, but I've always told people that if you do start a weight training routine or a low resistant training routine, to really try and get in a protein within an hour of working out. If you can get protein in within an hour of working out, it will reduce muscle soreness and tenderness, and it will also help your muscles recover. Because literally when you challenge your muscles, you are tearing muscle fibers. You are tearing them. And that's good, because sometimes you got to tear something down to make it stronger, right? So we want to make sure that you've got the materials in after your workout for that repair process to start. Do you have anything to say on that?
I was just thinking how when you exercise, there's obviously benefits to raising your metabolism, and so that's obviously another reason why it's important to get it within the first hour, because your body's metabolism is high, and you're going to get the most benefit out of it.
Yes, yes, you're going to access it quicker. Yes, great point. Anybody have any questions on working out with muscle tissue and all of that? You got that down pretty good? Okay, you need to be quiet because I got a video going on. Thank you, honey. All right, so the next thing that I want to show is knowing when do I need more protein according to the scale over here. If your muscle mass is going down, you probably need more protein. If your weight is going up, but your body fat percentage is the same or it's going up, you need more protein. So just a little couple things for you to be thinking about as you evaluate your BioTracker assessments every week. If muscle mass goes down, we need to look at, hey, do we get enough protein in? And I will tell you, if you do start working out and you haven't been working out, you're going to need more protein. I've had people do that many times through this program. They get about this point in the program, they start getting excited, get more energy, start working out. They get on the scale and they're like, I did so good this week. I exercised 3 times. I did weight training 2 times. And my muscle mass is down. What's wrong? It's because you needed more protein. So I want to make sure you understand that sometimes there will be a need for more protein. If you had a cold, had the flu, any kind of illness, you're going to need more protein because that generally will bring your muscle mass down. All right. So symptoms of not digesting protein properly. So there are also some really important facts we need to understand about digesting protein. Now that we've talked about how important protein is, now we need to make sure we're digesting it. It's not so much what you eat. You know the old saying, you are what you eat? It's you are what you absorb, what you actually digest and absorb. Yeah. Video. Thank you. So we want to make sure we're focusing on understanding that if we're not breaking down our proteins, especially if we got some leaky gut going on, and they're just going to go and they're going to hang out in our bloodstream, we're not absorbing them. So sometimes we can eat all the good protein in the world, but if we don't actually break it down, it's still not doing us any good. So we need to make sure that we're optimizing our protein digestion and absorption level. So the symptoms of not breaking down protein very easily are gas, belching, craving sugars, having a very full stomach after you eat for a long time. Some people call it a heavy stomach. And bloating after meals. All of those are symptoms of not digesting protein well. If you have acid reflux, if you have heartburn, acid indigestion, or GERD, this could be the case for all of your foods, not just proteins, but carbohydrates and fats as well. You may be challenged at actually breaking those down properly. And I'm going to explain why here in a moment. But those are symptoms of things we need to be aware of. If you crave sugars, a lot of belching, gas, heavy stomach, any of those things could be an indication you're not breaking that down properly. And of course, I'm going to give you guys clues as to what to do with that. So page number 36, get your figure back by lowering bad bacteria. Studies show that an obese person's microbiome tends to favor bad bacteria, while a leaner person's microbiome favors good bacteria. So literally, people who are leaner and trimmer are going to naturally have more good bacteria in their gut. Or people who are the opposite are going to have less good bacteria. So we know by increasing our lean muscle mass, getting leaner is all going to help that gut bacteria as well. Diets high in protein and plant-based diets are associated with an abundance of good bacteria. The other thing we need to realize when we talk about these bacteria in our gut, these microbiome, it's just not like 1 or 2 or 10 strands. There's literally thousands of strands of good, healthy microbiome in your gut. Just like we need varied proteins for all the varied amino acids, we need varied foods in the plant kingdom and in the protein kingdom to help us with that big diversity of good bacteria. You don't want to just have the Army and the Navy only working for you. You want the Army and the Navy and the Marines and the Special Forces and then all these different groups working for you, for your immune system. Same thing with your gut bacteria. We want to make sure we're creating diversity. So diets high in protein and plant-based diets are associated with abundance of good bacteria. Additionally, where the diet is primarily plant-based versus animal-based, we have a greater diversity of helpful bacteria in our guts. So that's why this program works so well at creating that good, healthy microbiome, because we're getting some diversity with all the plants. That's why we need 5 ounces of greens a day, why we need 6 vegetables per day. And I think I told one group last week, but I don't think I told both groups. Literally, it takes 5 amounts of good nutrition to heal, recover, and to set up a good bacteria in your gut than it does for maintaining. You need to eat 5 times the amount of good bacteria to rebuild than you do compared to just maintaining. And that's why we're eating so many of these fruit or vegetables and leafy greens in this particular program. These diets have been shown to increase healthy bacteria, increase insulin sensitivity and lipid profiles, which is your triglycerides, and improve the gut barrier. All right, all good reason. So the next thing I'm going to bring to you guys is something I like to bring because I really think people need to understand what happens with digestion. So before I actually get into digestion and how it works from a beginning standpoint, I need to explain a little guy named enzyme. Enzymes are very, very important for our bodies. We are born with an immense amount of enzymes, but as we continue to mature, our enzymes are depleted. We actually store them, and the more processed we eat, the less fruits and vegetables we eat, the less enzymes we have. Enzymes are actually stored in fresh fruits and vegetables that haven't been heated to much more than 100 degrees. They're very sensitive little guys. When you heat them, you kill them. But enzymes actually are responsible for breaking down our foods so that way they can have the fiber separated from the amino acids, separated from the vitamin A, separated from the whatever other nutrients is involved in that particular food. Enzymes are the catalyst to make this happen. Enzymes are very important for our digestion. A best way to explain enzymes is to use the analogy of a construction site. So we have all this wonderful building material and we're going to build a beautiful mansion. We've got the plans out, we're ready to go. There it is. We got the brick, we got the cement, we got the nails, we got the wood, we got the drywall, we got roofing material. Everything we would possibly need to build this beautiful structure is all right there. Those materials equate out to your vitamins and your minerals and your proteins and all of those things. But it's just not going to build a beautiful structure by itself, right? You have to have the workers come in. The construction guys got to come in and build this beautiful mansion for us. They're your enzymes. They're the guys that come in and make things happen. They're the spark. Shh. Thank you. They're the spark. So when we think of it that way, then it really helps us understand. So tell me, what do you think would happen if all those construction materials just laid out in the elements, the wind, the rain, the snow, whatever else came around? What would happen if they just laid there? Deteriorate. Rot. Right, exactly. Same thing happens in our guts. You can eat all the healthy stuff you want available, but if you don't have the ability to break it down and to put it in, build it into the nice, beautiful structure of going into your body and feeding your organs, it's going to putrefy. It's going to rot in your gut. This is why you have bloating and gas and belching, is because those foods literally are putting off gases because they're not getting broken down properly. So we need enzymes for this process called digestion. And as I said, the best ways to get those is from fresh fruits and fresh vegetables and your greens, of course. So let's talk about digestion. So did you know that digestion does not start in the mouth? Digestion actually can start with your eyes, seeing food. It can start with your nose, smelling food. It can start just with the thought, oh, hey, I gotta go start making dinner. Or, oh, hey, my wife's getting ready to cook me something. That literally starts the process of digestion. We have this acid that flows through our body called hydrochloric acid, which is extremely important for proper digestion. That when you actually start thinking or smelling or somehow associating yourself outside of yourself with food, hydrochloric acid starts to go to the stomach. It literally comes to the stomach in preparation for digestion. Huh? So literally, digestion just starts outside of us. And of course, the next thing we do is we put it in our mouth. Then digestion really gets to going. This is one of the reasons why we need to chew our foods and masticate our foods 20, 25 times a bite. Because we need to help break down that food to smaller particles. But even more so, we have saliva that contains enzymes that help start to break down those foods. So the more we chew, the more saliva we produce, the more enzymes we produce. We already got a head start before it gets here, just by chewing. That's really important for us to do that. Okay? So then we eat the food, it goes down the esophagus, and the esophagus, of course, is an alkaline nature. You guys know about pH, acid, alkalinity. I'm sure, Susie, you know about all that, right? Acid, alkalinity.
I know that vegetables are good.
Yep. So we've got the esophagus, which is alkaline in nature. It's alkaline tissue. And then we have the stomach, which in of itself is acid in nature. Okay? And then we have this little sphincter valve that opens up and releases the food that's been broken down in the stomach into the small intestine. But this little sphincter valve has a password. And that password is food needs to be at a pH of 2 to 3, which is very low on the pH scale, to open the door. So we've got the hydrochloric acid in there, we've got enzymes, we've got the food being broken down, we've got all these things going on in preparation for that digesting food to go to our small intestine. But if your pH balance is a 4 or a 5, guess what that food's going to do? Sit there, because the password hasn't been spoken. And this is where we get a lot of people who have acid reflux and acid indigestion and GERD, is because they literally don't have enough acids in their stomach and enzymes to break down their food. So it just sits there. Then they go to lay down or sit back in their chair and it's coming up and it's uncomfortable. And guess what? What does it do? Burns. Because you got this almost fully acid mix going into a very alkaline tissue, the esophagus. So it's very important that this upper digestion works and clicks along just as easily as possible. That's the other reason why we don't drink water and a lot of other liquids with our food. Because if we do that, we dilute the hydrochloric acid, we dilute the enzymes, we dilute the gastric juices, and of course, water is on a neutral level on the pH scale. It's a 7. And we're trying to get this fluid to a 3 to a 4. So the little valve will open up, or not 3, but 2 to 3, excuse me, 2 to 3 and go down. Okay? So the first stage of protein digestion starts in the stomach with that, what I just explained to you, that hydrochloric acid. Oh, and by the way, this is one of the reasons why one of our #1 over-the-counter sellers is antacids. How many of you guys know somebody who walks around with antacids either in their purse or in their pocket or has them in their car or has them somewhere? And many people do these antacids. And what's crazy about it, antacid, they're literally getting rid of the hydrochloric acid that they need to digest those foods properly. And then the body just ends up pushing it through, even though it's not at the right stage of proper digestion. It just gets rid of it. So they have a temporary relief, but the long-term problem is they're unable to digest their foods properly. And they can get gastric ulcers. And they can get all sorts of stomach issues because antacids literally are killing your positive, healthy acids in your stomach so you can properly digest your foods.
That also makes it possible for things like H. pylori and things like that to grow because they like the environment better when it's not as acidic. And that's one of the number one things that causes ulcers.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Yes, exactly. And you got all that food sitting in there, and everything's not going right. You're taking antacids. You're doing these things that are just not allowing that stomach to do what it needs to do. It's a breeding ground.
Yeah.
It's a breeding ground.
And for parasites too.
Parasites
A lot
too.
of different parasites.
Yeah, exactly. So there's a lot of good reasons to make sure our digestion is working from here to that stomach. So let's talk about the rest of it, okay? So something else happens when we eat food or go to eat food is there is this internal process that we have been created with where our body is actually able to be signaled what it needs to do in preparation for whatever's coming down the chute. So like for instance, if you're going to eat a big old piece of chocolate cake, guess who gets the notification? The pancreas. The pancreas is what we use to regulate our blood sugars. We release insulin from the pancreas. That's one of its two major jobs. But literally before you even start putting it in your mouth, the pancreas is being told by the other body processes within the body to get ready. We got a load of sugar coming in. We need a load of insulin prepared to go out and regulate this sugar and keep it balanced. That's how intelligent our bodies were made. It's beautiful to think about how that was done. Everything is known even before it's done. So, let me get back to digestion. The little valve opens up. The digesting food goes in the small intestine. The small intestine has got little hairs on it that basically pull nutrients to the walls and gets into the bloodstream. Hopefully not through big junctures like we talked about before. And that again is an alkaline environment. So if we force semi-acid food into the small intestine, that's where we get gastric ulcers from. But second stage of protein digestion happens here also. So not only does the pancreas release insulin, but it also releases pancreatin, which is an enzyme that helps us break down protein in its second stage. So protein literally has two stages of breakdown, in the stomach and in the pancreas. So if you have a problem with either one of those, then things are not going to be absorbed properly and things are not going to work right in that beginning of that digestion. And I've always told people, if you have sluggish intestines or your end of elimination is not working the way it should, you need to look at the beginning of digestion. Because if the beginning of digestion isn't working, most likely the end of digestion is not going to work right either. You're going to either be constipated or you're going to have excessively loose stools. One or the other, depending on what your constitution is. Any questions about digestion? Y'all look at me like.
Apple cider, which obviously Bragg's is a good one that they have in, at Jumbo's for helping with that process.
Yes.
Well, in food enzymes, of course, but
Yes.
with acid reflux.
Yes. Acid. Apple cider vinegar is excellent because it's acid is what actually assists the acids in doing what they need to do. When apple cider, it was funny because when apple cider vinegar is actually metabolized, it turns alkaline in the tissues like lemons do. But for that beginning of digestion, it really helps acid digestion. What I use for people who have acid indigestion, besides apple cider vinegar and maybe lemon and a little bit of honey, is we will do aloe vera juice, because aloe vera juice is really cooling and soothing and helps those tissues in the esophagus heal. I do food enzymes to help boost them from breaking down their foods properly. And then stomach comfort is another one I use. Stomach comfort is a natural antacid without all the aluminum in them. By the way, almost all your antacids have lots of aluminum in them. But will help with neutralizing acid that without killing it out completely. Kind of creates a balance. Nothing you would stay on for the rest of your life by any means, but a good temporary relief as you're working on getting your body having the right signals going on and the right processes taking place. So I've got some samples of some stomach comfort up here, you guys. If you have or know of somebody who's got some digestional distress and you want them to get off of Tums, please feel free to take a sample of this tonight. And then I also have a sample of food enzymes for you all tonight also. You can take one of these with each meal. One food enzyme breaks down 30 grams of protein, 30 grams of carbohydrates, and 20 grams of fat with one of these capsules only. So that's something else you guys can try also. Okay, any questions? All right, Science 101 on digestion. Okay. All right, so we are on page number 37, In.Form Metabolic Age Support Shakes. So, of course, one of the reasons the In.Form shakes are a part of this program is not only do they provide high quality protein, but also in addition is these proteins are also partially digested, which means it's not going to take as long to break down a protein shake as it is a steak or a piece of fish or anything like that. So you don't have to rely on that digestive system to work as hard. Obviously, we want your digestive system to work hard, but sometimes we also need to give it a break, give it some nutrients so it can actually heal. So the protein shakes step in well for that. The other things you're getting 20 grams of protein per 2 scoops of protein powder. How many protein shakes are we supposed to do a day? 2, thank you. And we also get 2 grams of heart-healthy phytosterols, which is very unique, and we're going to talk about that more next week. You can also see here it promotes helping with muscle recovery, helps with your healthy body composition. You get lots of vitamins and minerals. And so anyways, it's just a really good format for what we're doing right now. And plus it's easy. A lot of people in the morning, they're in a hurry. Maybe they don't have time to make food. You know, having that protein shake available to get that protein in within an hour is really convenient. Now, of course, the protein shake's only got 20 grams. We're shooting for 30. So if you do a smoothie in the morning, you may want to add a boiled egg or 2 also to your, not smoothie, but your shake. Or you can make a smoothie like we've been making. Tonight we're going to be doing a peanut butter, well, it's called a Reese's Meltdown with peanut butter and raw cacao. And that's an excellent morning shake because we're adding some peanut butter, and that high quality peanut butter is going to give us more protein. So it's going to help us get closer to 30 grams. So you can be strategic doing this all sorts of different ways, but the protein shakes do help you get that protein in instantly in the morning, and it's easier on your digestive system as well.
How much protein's in the peanut butter?
In the peanut butter, like this one, this is 1 tablespoon or this is 2 tablespoons is 7 grams. And that's about what I use when I do a protein shake, is about 2 tablespoons. So you would have about 27 grams. The other thing I like to add is hemp seed hearts, because hemp seed hearts actually have 10 grams of protein per 3 tablespoons. I usually do 1 tablespoon, you're getting 3.33 more grams of protein here. So if you were to add a tablespoon of this, 2 tablespoons of this, 2 scoops of your protein powder right there, that would put you at your 30 grams for the
Also
morning.
gives you a little bit of fat too, because the shakes are not high in fat, and
Yes.
that's one thing I like about it for staying full longer and to get good fats in as well.
Yes, definitely. Definitely. Good fats will help with satiety as well. Any questions? All right, so page number 38. So this week we're going to go ahead and set our SMART goal for the week. Hopefully you're going to be able to center around your SMART goal something around to do with protein, whether you're going to try and work on working in more protein snacks, making sure you get your 30 grams in the morning, however it may be, but look for something within the protein arena of a SMART goal that you can set for yourself, maybe in addition to any other SMART goals that you've got going on. Of course, we're going to read Module 4 for the week. We're going to work on consuming our 5 servings of protein each and every day. And we're also going to work on getting our physical activity levels up. We need to go ahead and start stressing our muscles a little bit more so that way we can be stronger from a foundational level at the muscle level. So next week we talk about the heart. We're going to talk about how the heart works in conjunction with the gut microbiome and how they're intricately connected. Heart's over here. And we're also going to talk about fats. We're going to bust the myth of fats. and make sure we understand why we need fats and why they're so important, and get rid of all this stuff that we've been taught over the years of how we need to avoid fats. So with that being said, I want to thank everybody for being here tonight and being a part of our program. And of course, next week I'll see you for heart health and fat information. Y'all have a great week. Thank you.